Hey folks, it's Robin Robbins. Welcome to this marketing deep dive where we are going to be talking about a topic I know everybody wants to know more about, wants to know the secret to, and that is email marketing. And I have 101 posted on here because that's what we're really going to cover, some fundamentals of what to do to get the most out of email marketing. And so more specifically, we're going to be covering the most important thing you need to get in place first to succeed at email marketing, how to build a permission-based or opt-in email list building, when it's appropriate to email someone and when it's not. We're going to cover email metrics you should know and watch, how to construct your email messages to maximize delivery, open and click-through rates, and how to keep your list responsive. So just as a reminder, we are on live. So if you have questions, go ahead and post that down in the chat window or the question window. And I've got Debbie Bush, who's on with me. I've also got Mike Stodola, who is my Chief Marketing Officer. And between the two of them, they're going to be monitoring your questions and answering your questions. Both know quite a bit about email marketing, and that's why I have them here on the call with me. But again, if you have a question, go ahead and post it down there. In fact, just to get things rolling, if you would, I'd like you to post what is the single biggest challenge you have with email marketing, or if you want to post it a different way, say like, here's the one thing that I struggle with when it comes to email marketing. I think I'm going to cover it in this session because I'm pretty familiar with what you guys struggle with because I work with you day in and day out in doing all kinds of campaigns and lead generation and sales and whatnot. But go ahead and post in that question area, what's the single biggest challenge you have? And so I can see already some of you are posting creating a list, getting an opt-in list. Obviously, that's going to be number one. One thing I struggle, marketing, getting people to opt in, getting your emails opened, understanding the reports like open rates in other categories, list building, keeping a list responsive. Yeah, so like I'm going to cover all of that today. So I appreciate keep the chat going, and Debbie or Mike, if you see a question that I don't cover or something that people are posting right now, make sure you stop me and I'll answer those questions. Okay, so we are recording. Okay, we are recording. So if you got, we're going to go quick. You can go back and you can watch this, and I'll hang on to the very end to answer all of your questions that you have regarding this because I know this is a big topic. Okay, so with that said, let's get started. And the first thing I want to cover is what's the thing you need to have in place first before doing list building or email marketing. And that is you got to have a CRM plus marketing automation platform. And I know a lot of you know I sell Infusionsoft. We don't just sell Infusionsoft. We actually have a whole platform of marketing campaigns and other software built for to deliver marketing, CRM, and automation to our clients, IT service companies, and MSPs. So I'm going to recommend that, but even more than that, I'm going to recommend 7 things that you need to look for in an email broadcasting solution in addition to basic list management. So you got to have your tool in place because as you do list building, you get people to opt in and you start doing broadcasts, you're going to need a tool to put people into, to know where they subscribed, how they subscribed. You're going to want to keep track of bounce. If they bounce, you want to keep track if they opt out of your list. You want to have automatic opt-outs, which any good email broadcasting solution should do. And that's kind of basic list management. So in addition to the basics, here's some other things you want to look for. And one is you have to be able to quickly and easily segment and generate a list to email. And I know from doing a lot of rapid implementation workshops, our clients come into that workshop and they're trying to get campaigns out, but they're still using their PSA tool, like their ConnectWise Autotask or whatever, and they're trying to do email campaigns from that piece of software. And while a PSA tool is a necessary software to run an IT services business, it is not a CRM, and it's definitely not marketing automation. And so when something as simple as, well, pull a list of your top managed services clients, or pull a list of all the clients you have that are break fix, because here's a campaign we're going to use to try and get them to buy managed services, or pull a list of everybody who has not purchased your phone system that you sell. And we see them sitting there taking, half an hour just to get the list, because they got to pull it out. Then they got to sort it in a Excel spreadsheet and put it back in. So you can't run a railroad that way. I mean, it's way too much work. There's tools, there's software that will do this very quickly and automate it for you, and that's what you want to look for. So, for example, let's say you send out an email broadcast and you're telling your clients, download this free report on cybersecurity, because you want them to read it to kind of prep them to sell them maybe an upgraded cybersecurity solution or maybe a managed solution of some kind. So you send this email broadcast out, and you're going to get people who click on the link in the email, go to the landing page where the report is, but they don't opt in to download it. Like, in other words, they don't, so they kind of went to the page, but then they went away. Now, you want to email those people again saying, did you have a problem with the form? I saw that you clicked on the email, but you didn't download the report. Can I send it to you? Okay, so that's one scenario. Another one would be they opened the email, looked at it, we think. I mean, that's what we think happened when it shows open, but they didn't click on the link. So they got it, they saw it, but they didn't click on the link. And what we want to do with them is we want to email them again and say, hey, I noticed you looked at this, but you didn't follow through, so I've posted the report here or something. You want to email them again. Then there's people who had email addresses that bounced. And if these are customers of yours and their email is bouncing, well, that's obviously something you got to look into, because you either want to reach out and figure out maybe they need technical support. I don't know. You definitely don't want their emails bouncing, because how are you going to communicate with them about other important stuff like alerts for cybersecurity alerts and whatnot? Or if they're prospects, you just want to be able to clean up the list, because you don't want to keep broadcasting and having a bunch of these emails bounce. Because it hurts you from a sender score. Like, a lot of these email broadcasting software solutions have some kind of sender rating system. So if you're getting a lot of hard bounces, if you're getting a lot of opt-outs, if you're getting a lot of spam complaints, they'll shut you down. So you want to make sure you have a clean list. Or you might get somebody who actually downloads the report. Well, you don't want to keep emailing them, hey, go download the report. So you can see just in one simple email that you're sending out, it's kicking off these different buckets of people, and you want to be able to follow up with them appropriately. And if the software you're using doesn't allow you to do that kind of segmentation with a couple of clicks, then you got to find a different email solution. So picking the right software is critical, because as you build your list, it's really painful to move from one software to another software to another software. And that's one of my other tips I'll talk about, because some software does not make it easy to do that. Sometimes you lose the history because fields don't match up exactly. So this is why you want to pick the right tool from the beginning. So one is, again, ability to quickly and easily segment your list or generate a list to email. Another thing you want to look for is customizable web forms. And what I mean by that is, if you go to one of our websites, we might be asking you for name, company, job title, email, phone. Another one, we might just be asking for your name and email. Another one, we might want to get all of your information depending on what we're doing. So some email broadcasting software does not allow you to customize the web form. It doesn't allow you to put your own website design wrap around it. You've just got to use their own form, which is a little awkward, right? So you want to be able to customize the web forms, and you want to make sure that as that lead comes in, it goes into your CRM, so you capture the lead, you track it as an inbound lead or a hot lead, and then kick off a series of tasks that happen automatically, like emails going out automatically saying, thanks for downloading the report. In case you had any trouble, here's the link to getting it again. And by the way, we want to offer you a dark web scan. You want that kind of email to go out automatically. You want to set up a task for maybe your salesperson to call them, or you call them, or some kind of piece of mail goes out. And so this is the problem when, like many of our members, before we had Infusionsoft, I mean, now most of them are using Infusionsoft, but before we had Infusionsoft, they would use something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, and they had all kinds of problems because, and I don't know today, maybe it's changed, but the forms weren't customizable. And then it was noted that they clicked in Constant Contact or MailChimp, but they're not real CRM. So you can't attach notes. You can't, do mail merge. You can't do sophisticated if-then logic. They're not marketing automation platforms. And so you're building a list, but that's about all you're doing. You can't really do anything else. So that's another thing you want to look for in an email broadcasting solution. You also want to look for if-then marketing automation. And again, this is why my final tip is you want to make sure whatever email broadcasting solution you choose is native to your CRM. Because let's say, for example, you're doing a webinar and you email your list and you get a bunch of people who sign up for the webinar. Well, if they sign up, then you might want to say, kick off this series of emails to remind them to show up or to sort of indoctrinate them a bit, like get them to know a little bit more about you and your company before they show up. Or same with an appointment. Let's say you're doing a QBR campaign, quarterly business review. You email out all your clients and some of them click, but they don't schedule. Or some of them are going to click and schedule. Some of them aren't going to do anything. Based on what happens, if they don't schedule, then you want to have another email that says, hey, what happened? I saw you click, but you didn't schedule the appointment. Here's my link to the calendar. Please get on and, please do that. If they don't respond to that, another email would go to them. And it keeps pinging them until you run out of the marketing sequence or they book, right? And so that's called marketing automation. And if you have to keep track of that every day manually, it's a nightmare and you're going to drop balls and you're going to forget things. And it's just a pain in the butt. Whereas if you have automation built in where if this person books the appointment, then do this. If this person doesn't book the appointment, then do that. And that's called marketing automation. And that's part of the reason why we like Infusionsoft. And that's why you don't want to just have an email broadcast platform, because that's all you can do and none of that automation is built in. The other thing you want to look for is an unaltered from address. Not all, but some email broadcasting solutions will change the from address and make it look kind of weird or wonky. I just had somebody said they were sending out emails, and I can't remember the name of the platform, but they switched to this platform and they saw a significant drop-off in their response rates. And I said, well, like what changed? And I didn't even know they had switched. I said, well, what have you changed? Anything in the last month? And they said, oh, well, we switched platforms. And I said, well, how's the email going out? And they said, well, it's making this really weird, long email it's coming from, and it's not my email like it was before. And so anyway, you got to look for when the email goes out, is it some kind of manufactured, constructed email address that is not yours, but the company, the CRM company? You don't want that. Another thing to look for is the ability to import your current email list without being forced to opt everyone in again or reconfirm their subscription. So there are a couple platforms out there. Let's say if you wanted to switch to them, and let's say you have an email list of 500 customers, prospects, or whatever, and you want to import them, these are people that you've been emailing, they're already opted in. Some platforms say, we got to send out an email to those people and get them to click to opt back in, or we'll suppress them. Well, you don't want that, because if you send out an email asking everybody to click, I mean, even if they want to stay on your email list, the email might not reach them. It might accidentally go into a spam filter. They might be on vacation that week and they don't respond, or there's all kinds of things that can happen. So you want to work with an email broadcast company that you can import your list and they don't suppress that. Now, the way Infusionsoft does it is when you start with them, you got to they let you send out a small broadcast, and then they expand it a little bit and expand it a little bit. And as long as you're not getting high spam rates, then they release your whole list. So it's a little bit of a process, but It's nowhere like it's not, they're not suppressing your entire list. They just let you kind of do a sample out, and they're doing that so you can prove to them that you really do have an opt-in list, and they want to do that. I mean, any broadcasting software is going to do that. They have to protect their servers, because if they have spammers on their servers, then all of their customers get dinged. Anyway, so the Infusionsoft allows you just to import your list without having to re-opt everybody in again. The other thing to ask before you put your names in is, say, if I want to cancel, how do I get my data back? How quickly? What format? And is it clean? Because this is another nightmare. When we moved from Salesforce and we moved over to Infusionsoft, it was a nightmare getting our data. It was full of junk. When they exported everything, it appended these big long strings of, some kind of a, text and number numeric code on a lot of the data. And we had to pay somebody to strip all that out. And it was just, I'm telling you, it was a disaster. So make sure you can get your data back and make sure it's clean, so you don't have to do anything else if you want to switch. And then the final tip I already mentioned, but I'll say it again, make sure the email broadcasting software is native to your CRM, not a plugin. Again, when we were doing email, when we were on Salesforce only allows you to do 1,000 emails per month. Well, our entire list is bigger than that, right? I mean, we got a 40,000 list, and so what they do, if you have a bigger list than that, then what they require you to do is plug in one of the other email providers that they work with, and that's not exactly excellent, because there's sometimes problems between the integration. We had it where one of the applications was actually opting out people without our permission of opting them out. So bottom line is, you want to have one database, you want to have one CRM, one platform, one everything that does it all. And I'm sure there's other ones out there aside from Infusionsoft, which is what we sell. I'm not going to say it's the only one that checks off all this, but it is the one we recommend. Now, I'm not going to go into a pitch here about Infusionsoft. If you're interested in seeing more about that, go to MSP Marketing CRM, and you can get a demo and you can decide if it's right for you. But the 7 things that I just went over, this is what you want to look for regardless of what application you're using. So let me pause here real quick. Mike, do you have anything, or Debbie, or any questions? Let me go with Mike. Any questions or anything you want to add on to that?
I mean, there are a couple of questions. I know you're going to cover the stuff later. So, but Jacqueline was saying, how much time should I dedicate to email for maximal benefit?
Well, I mean, how long's a piece of string? I mean, there's just, so for us, like Mike and I, the reason I have Mike on, Mike is awesome with knowing sales and marketing funnels and copy and everything else. So when Mike and I sort of every week, we have a weekly marketing meeting, and we plan out what emails are going out to our list. So we'll say, like, for example, okay, this week we're going to send out an email to our entire list minus sponsors, to drive to there's a really cool income survey that we just did that's on MSPsuccessmagazine.com. And so we're going to drive it's just pure content. And we said, hey, we're going to send this email out to our entire list. And then for our sponsors, I have another article on sponsor Robin Robbins, and we are going to take that article, put it up there, and email the sponsors that. And then we're suppressing people who are in an active campaign, like they're currently scheduled for an appointment or whatever. So, that's just an example. So I use Basecamp, and we track everything and saying, okay, what emails are going out this week? What emails are going out next week? And so that literally takes, sometimes it takes a little bit longer because it depends on, we've got multiple products and goals. So that conversation, that planning session may take, it can take anywhere from 5 minutes. It's a quick 5-minute discussion to, a little bit of back and forth. Maybe it's 30 minutes. So part of it's planning what to send. Then the second piece of time you're going to spend is writing the emails and setting up the pages and stuff like that. I have no idea how long that takes, because that's why I have Mike and Lindsay and my team, right? So Mike writes them, sometimes I write them. So however long to me, I can knock out an email in like 15 minutes, right? I mean, just a really good email. And then aside from that, we're always doing marketing campaigns to build the list, from Facebook ads, LinkedIn, new offers, new content, because you want to pump out a bunch of content so in different ways, in different formats, and drive them back to pages to build your list. So it's really hard for me to say, okay, this is how much time, because it just depends. It's kind of broken up and scattered, but it just depends on, do you have help or not, what your goals are. I mean, Mike, would you add on to that at all?
Yeah, and I mean, it also depends, like, if you are part of the folks using Infusionsoft. I mean, we've got a bunch of pre-written emails in there, like with the weekly tips and all of that. So if you are using some sort of service, then, I mean, your time might just be finding the audience and pressing a button, or it's just in that campaign. So it could be a very minimal amount of time from that aspect. It really just depends on how complex. I mean, obviously, it's one of those things that's it'll probably go down over time as you get more proficient with writing emails and seeing what you're doing. But if you're doing a big campaign or you're doing a lot of segmentation, it might take a while. But I guess as a kind of rule of thumb, Glenn, I wouldn't probably spend more than like an hour. I mean, a week. It's not like you're doing a ton of these broadcast emails. Now, that doesn't include if you're creating landing pages and doing a bunch of stuff behind it, but the email itself, if you're spending more than an hour, the email's probably too long, and I spend the time working on the page behind it and all.
Yeah. I mean, I think creating the content and the web pages to opt people in the funnel, that's what takes more time than actually creating the email itself and sending it. I mean, in Infusionsoft, you can cut and paste and pull a list in like 5 minutes, right, and get a broadcast out, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the easy part if you have an automation tool. If you don't have an automation tool, you're going to be spending a lot more time and doing manual labor. That's why I started out by saying, if you're really going to get into doing email marketing the right way, then you need a proper tool, a bucket, a software to manage this for you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. And then Scott, real quick, had a question, and this relates. It says, when should I send emails directly as opposed to from Infusionsoft?
Well, I mean, you send it directly. If I'm wanting to talk to you, Scott, I would just email you direct whenever appropriate. I mean, and then, so like, I'll give you an example. So we have a number of email campaigns lined up for the next 3 weeks, right? Well, actually, we have our campaigns mapped out for July. So we know, okay, 4th of July, we're going to be doing just, content every week. So there's going to be some kind of content, but we also have a rapid implementation workshop we're going to promote. We have the MSP Success Magazine we're going to promote. We have some sponsor stuff we're going to promote. We have a 4-week fast start. So we map out the calendar at least, 30 days. And then actually we're going to get into doing roadshow stuff too. So part of the marketing plan is segmenting the list and saying, okay, what campaigns are we going to do and how are we going to bucket people? So that should be happening well in advance. And then, but there might be a campaign, like, for example, I said, we've got this rapid implementation workshop coming up. We happen to be at Spark, so we got a bigger room than we typically have. In our office, we're limited to like 30 people. But at Spark, we've got more room, and we were able to get Spark. So I said to Aaron, why don't you and Kim, call everybody who sat a consult but didn't buy, or bought a toolkit but didn't upgrade to Rapid, and why don't you go and just call them and say, we're at Spark, why don't you come and we'll let you bring somebody for free. Because we've got the room. So, so in that case, Aaron's going to personally email his accounts and say, hey, I've got this thing for you, this special offer, but he's deciding those and he's doing those on his own. Those emails will come from him one-on-one, but the broadcasts are still going out. So somebody might be in one of those broadcast emails, and Aaron might email them the same week. And that's okay. I mean, as long as you're not emailing them 5, 6, 7 times a day, that's probably too much. But yeah, there's always that personal email is always happening in addition to the broadcast that we're doing. All right. Should I move on, or is there another one on this? No? Okay.
We're good for now.
And I'm going to get to, guys, I know you're probably asking questions that you're like, why is Mike not asking? I got a lot of he knows where I'm going. So just stay on for the ride. Okay. So let's talk about how to build a responsive email list, because having a big list is nothing to be proud of unless it's also responsive. And there's a lot of people, and it seems like the bigger the list, the less responsive it's going to be. Where you actually are going to get more response is these smaller pools of customers and lists. And that's where you're going to see really big response rates. Now, what is a big response rate? If you're getting 30%, 40% to open the email and you're getting 10%, 20% click-through rates, that's an enormous response, all right? So you might look at that and go, I thought really responsive would mean 90% open and 50% click. And I mean, if you're doing that, God bless you, that's amazing. But for broadcasts, we're talking about not one-to-one personal email. When you're doing marketing broadcasts, if you can get a 30, 40% open rate, if you can get anywhere from a 5% to 20% click-through rate, you're killing it. But the number one thing you got to think about is no spam, because you want to send emails to people who have given you permission to email them and who actually genuinely want to be on your list. That's the secret. Everybody wants to build email lists, but the trick to building an email list is getting people who want to be on your list, who want you to call them and send them information. And so many people overlook this. They think there's some kind of hack to spamming. And I'm telling you, if you spam people, and we're going to talk about what's permission and what's not only are you going to get searing hate mail, which is not what you want. If you're a marketer, you want to build relationships and build your brand and reputation. You don't want to destroy it. But not only are you going to destroy your reputation, but you're also going to get kicked off of your broadcasting company, because, like I said earlier, these email broadcasting software companies, they got to have legitimate email coming from their servers or they get shut down. So they're not going to tolerate high spam requests. They're going to keep the servers clean. And so this is the number one thing. So when you say, well, what is permission? What is considered it's okay to email somebody? If they opt in your website to download information like a free report, an audio, a checklist, or whatever, any kind of content, that's permission. If they request a consultation or book an appointment, that's considered permission. If they fill in a contact us form on your website, or they register for a seminar or webinar you're hosting, again, that's permission. If they call your office and give you their information over the phone, that's considered permission. If they hand you a business card that has their email on it, so if you're at a trade show or a networking event, you're sponsoring an event, you got the little fishbowl out and they drop the business card in and there's an email on it, that's considered permission. And of course, if they become a customer. But the thing you got to remember, permission for now doesn't mean permission forever. So when you're doing your broadcasts, you've got to give the people that you're sending emails to the ability to opt out of your list at any time, and you got to honor that. Now, good email broadcasting software will have a link at the bottom to click here to unsubscribe, okay? And that's what you want, because you don't want to be manually having to unsubscribe everybody, and then somebody's going to be out on vacation and miss it, and you're really going to get somebody hot after you because you emailed them and they've opted out and they're really annoyed with you now, right? So just because somebody's a customer, I mean, we have people who've bought from us. It's crazy. They buy something, they opt out of our list, and then they've even come back and said, I'm not getting any reminders, and they're like angry with us. I'm like, well, you opted out. I can't email you. If you opt out, I have to honor that. So then they have to go and subscribe again. We can manually, Infusionsoft allows us to flip them to marketable or unmarketable. So we can do that manually, but it's also automated. So just remember, permission initially means permission for now, but if you send irrelevant content, they're going to opt out and you're going to lose that permission. Okay. Now, here's what's walking the line of spam. Okay. So when I say it's kind of spammy, but what defines spam? I mean, some people say, oh, these people spam me. And they just use spam as a term for any kind of commercial email. They call it all spam. Even if they opted in, they still call it spam. So again, Technically, spam is when you are emailing somebody without their explicit permission to email. But that's, there's a lot of people where they're giving you their email on a business card that they're handing you. They're not handing the card to you saying, okay, please email me. I mean, that's, or please add me to your list. That's not what they might have said, but they gave you this and said, hey, I want to talk to you about IT support. That's not really spam if you email them, although some people may consider that. It's just a matter of definition. But walking the line is if you connect with somebody on LinkedIn and download their email address and then start emailing them, that is kind of spammy. Okay. Now, again, I say it's walking the line because when I connect with people on LinkedIn, I didn't even realize this. We're going back years ago. LinkedIn is putting more controls on this. But when I would connect with somebody on LinkedIn, I wasn't thinking, oh, they got my email address and now they're going to start emailing me. I just was making a connection. And so some people get annoyed if they connect with you on LinkedIn and then you start emailing them. So it's walking the line. You got to be very careful. And what I would say is, if you do get somebody's personal email, stay on LinkedIn on that platform to communicate with them. And then if you email them, make sure you say, thanks for connecting on LinkedIn, and then something to the effect of, I hope it's okay to connect with you via email. And I would make the message very personal. I wouldn't just dump them into your broadcast. I've not done that. So I've got, I don't know how many, it's like 14,000 connections on LinkedIn. And you can download all those email addresses. And I could just import them into Infusionsoft and have at it, but I have not done that. And I've not done it because I feel like personally they haven't really given me explicit permission to put them into my broadcast. Do we occasionally email them direct? Yes, we do, but only when we've got something very specific to share with them. It's a very customized one-to-one, and it is a one-to-one message. In that case, we will then email them. I know I'm probably kicking off a bunch of questions here. Mike, am I getting a bunch of questions on this?
Let's see.
No,
not yet on this
specific
topic.
To LinkedIn, because I always get. Yeah, I was going to, well, let me keep going, okay? So that's LinkedIn. Calling an office and getting a secretary to give you somebody's email address, it's not completely spam because you asked for it and the person gave it to you, but again, the person who receives that may be annoyed, okay? I'm just telling you, I'm not saying it's totally spam. It's kind of in that gray area. Or if you get or buy a list of attendees from an event that you sponsored or maybe where you presented, and the attendees didn't give you explicit permission for their email address to be shared, again, that's a little bit spammy. So, for example, let's take my events. We do not give our sponsors emails. So, and we tell them that. We say, look, if you want to get email addresses and build your list, you got to have conversations in the hallway. You got to get those people to give you permission. Okay. So, and they all hate that, by the way. None of the sponsors like it and they complain about it constantly. But they'll be in the hallway, or they'll be sponsoring like a photo line for Damon John, and they will scan your badge, and they're getting your information. And so some of our attendees forget that because they'll come to us and say, these sponsors are spamming us. You must have given my email address to them. And we're like, no, we didn't. Did you go by their booth? No, I didn't go by their booth. I didn't even talk to them. And then they go, well, were you in the photo line? Oh, yeah, that's where, So that's why it's a little bit of walking the line, because then the thing that vendors make the mistake of doing is they just put everybody into a big broadcast and say, great seeing you at the event, talking to you, here's the show special. And it's so impersonal that people are like, this is just spam. I don't remember this conversation. So, be real careful about that. You got to just know that these people may not have connected with you, may not know you, and you might want to, in your first email, say, here's how I got your name. And then finally, getting someone to give you their clients, their prospects, their referral email address. Just because maybe you've got a client who gives you a referral, you don't want to just take that person's email and stuff it into your broadcast, okay? And then what is unequivocally spam 100% is if you purchase it or obtain an email address and no explicit permission was given, then that is spam. And there's places that sell email addresses all over the internet. that doesn't make it right. I mean, there's like, you guys know, dark web. I mean, there's a ton of people out there scraping email addresses or hacking in, stealing email addresses. It doesn't make it legit, even if you paid the person money. And if you did, then shame on you. That's, you got what you deserved. Scraping email addresses from websites is, again, spam. And continuing to email people who have requested to be removed, spam. What's the Monty Python thing? Spam, spam, spam. That's where it came from, because spam comes with everything, whether you want it or not. So, all right. Before I move on, any questions about spam, Mike, that I need to address?
I mean, no, we're good so far. I mean, the big rule is, I mean, if you wouldn't want it done to you, probably don't do it to others.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just think about that. And, you know, I always laugh because, like, all the people on this call, number one thing they want to do is email marketing. And they're like, oh, well, how do I get past, like, you know, spam filters? I'm like, well, you guys set them up. You know, you set them up. And I'll tell you, here's another funny thing, right? It's not uncommon. I'm going to give some people evil genius ideas right now, right? So it's not uncommon where an MSP takes over an account from another MSP, and they look at their email server or their whatever they're using for spam filtering, and they notice that the previous MSP blocked all the emails from every other IT firm. Like, so you know what I mean? Like, they set it up so that no other competitor could email that person, right? And they find out and they're like, can you believe this? So evil genius, right? You know,
yes.
I'm not saying you should do that. And by the way, P.S., I think you shouldn't do that unless you get permission from your client to be monkeying around with their mail like that. I think that's disingenuous and unethical. But I'm just saying, that's like, this is the games that people play. All right, so let's keep going. So let's talk about, there's 4 steps to building a permission-based email list. So how do you build that list? And unfortunately, guys, there's no like quick fixes or hacks. And I mean, the internet is full of these, you know, flash in the pan marketing gurus are going to tell you how to build 1,000 email lists in 2 days or something like that. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to call bullshit on that, because again, maybe that's possible, but you want to think about quality too. I mean, if you just want to get email addresses of anybody, that's not that hard. What we're looking for are quality prospects who will give us money, who are interested in what you're selling, right? Because otherwise they're useless to you. So the first thing you got to do is you got to create some kind of lead generation offers. And I would suggest you have more than one. So things like free reports, white papers, we've given you that in the toolkit. You've got a ton of those. You could take those and turn them into an ebook, or you could write an ebook. Any kind of buyer's guide, ultimate guide to, simple guide to, all those work really well. Some sort of a checklist or a cheat sheet, a video, whether it's a single video or a series, a webinar, live or on demand, interview, podcast, audio recording, a CD. And yes, folks, people still use CDs. I know you think that's so old, but there's still people driving around with CD players, and it does skew older in age. But then again, the people with all the money tend to be older in age too. So don't snark at it too quick. Surveys or research, like what we just were talking about at MSP Success Magazine, for example. We just did an income survey, and we polled I don't know how many hundred MSPs, and we asked them to tell us what they were making, and we segmented it by the revenue of the company, whether they were the owner, and what they were taking home personal income. So stuff like that, people love that kind of thing, and you can use that kind of research and data to build your list. You can offer an IT or cybersecurity assessment, a network audit, dark web scan, cybersecurity alerts, or email tips. That's in Infusionsoft. If you're one of our Infusionsoft members, the cybersecurity weekly tips are amazing because people love them. They keep your list engaged. It's good information, and people will sign up for it if you have it on your website, or maybe you have a blog post that's all about cybersecurity. On that blog post, put an offer for sign up for cybersecurity alerts. Whenever there's a new alert or a new threat, we'll notify you by email, and people will sign up for that. Some kind of a template or a tool, or of course a seminar, event, happy hour, and you can also have an alert for upcoming. So like on our robinsbigseminar.com, when you go there, it pops up and says, be on the early notification list. So as soon as we get speakers and agenda and everything else, we will notify those people, and we get opt-ins there as well. So create one or more, and people always want to say, well, which one's the best? It depends on the audience, and I would say you want multiple forms of content. So you could do a webinar and you could record it. So now you got a webinar you could do live. You've got the on-demand webinar, which you could offer people to opt in for. Then you could take that content and turn it into an ebook by getting it transcribed and cleaning it up so that it reads well, and say, here's an ebook, and base it on the webinar, and you could maybe pull a free report. So you could use the same content or topic and just deliver it in different formats, because some people prefer to read, some people prefer to watch or listen. So my recommendation to you is have different modalities, because just different people respond in different ways. Okay, so then after you've got that, the next thing you want to do is put those opt-in forms on all your web pages, blogs, for people to request your offer. And you can have different lead generation offers on each page, or you can reuse the same offer. So this ultimate free marketing guide for MSPs, this is our current offer, and we've got it on various different sites. We got it on MSP Success Magazine. We've got it on technologymarketingtoolkit.com, and we use it in the blog. But on other pages, we might have different offers. But I would suggest, if you have content on a page that is about cybersecurity, whatever it is, then match the offer to what the content is. So again, if you had an article that was about cybersecurity, then you might offer a free dark web scan right there on the page. If you've got an article that is about keeping your company or keeping your employees from wasting time online, then you might have a checklist of, what every acceptable use policy, or what every company should have, a checklist of what needs to go in your acceptable use policy, or a checklist of how to keep your employees productive when connected to the internet, or something like that. So just match the content to the offer. And the other thing I'll just say is, the more information you ask for on the form, meaning the number of fields, the lower the conversion will be. However, if you don't want to just ask for email, or you won't know who's opting in, and you don't have any other way of contacting them. So somebody opts in and they use some crappy throwaway Gmail account. Well, you don't know if that could be the CEO of a company. Is that a prospect? Is that just a competitor? I mean, you don't know. So I don't like just asking for an email address. And I know that was the advice of a lot of marketers for a very long time. It still might be. And the reason they do it is because they want to build this big, massive list, because they think it's like it's their ego having this huge list, and it increases conversion, because when someone just has to put in an email, your conversion is going to be higher than if you ask for name and company and phone number and all the rest. So you got to this is a balancing act. In some cases, we might just ask for name, company, and email. In other cases, we might go, like on this one, we're asking for job title, because we want to know, is that the CEO, owner? Is it a salesperson? That helps our team in following up. In other cases, we want full Monty, man. We want not only your name, company, email, mailing address, and phone number, but we want you to fill in a questionnaire. It just depends on what we're doing. Okay, so that's
Robin,
tip number 2. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, before you go on, we've got a question about white papers. People just asking, what are examples of a white paper?
White paper is just a free report. It's just a fancy name for a free report. It's like the corporate name for it.
Yeah,
so, I mean, I guess you could call it a free report. You could call it a white paper. A white paper is supposed to be, the idea is that it's an informative, researched kind of document on a topic. That's all. It's a free report. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can get a bunch of them, in the dashboard from your various things. So, there's a lot of great things that you can use in there. And then just one quick tip on the information. If you do need a lot of information, but you're worried about really cutting down the number of people who fill out the form, we've seen that if you ask for like first name, last name, email on the first step, then when they hit submit, then have a second step that has them give some more information. You got to have a reason for some more information, but like if you're going to download a report, you could offer to mail them the report. So then it makes a lot of sense to ask for an address, and a lot of people will fill out that second form too. So that's why when Robin was talking about having different modalities, some people like reading online, but a lot of people, I want that report like in their hands and sticking around their office, also getting it in the mail several days later, because we all download things online as we're scrolling through our mobile phone, and then we never read it there.
Right.
So if we can get that information into their hands, that's really the ideal thing to do.
Exactly right. Yeah. Okay. So again, step one is you're going to create the content. Step two, you got these web forms. And then step three is you publish content that directs people to opt in on various lead generation offers. So you might have Facebook posts or Facebook ads. LinkedIn, you might have a LinkedIn, you put it in the main feed. You could put it in your LinkedIn group. You could also buy LinkedIn ads. Search engine optimization, obviously writing articles and pages and then putting the offer in that on a web page or on your blog, and on YouTube as well. And YouTube, you got to put it down in the comments, the link, hey, go to such and such to download this. So Mike and I were just talking about like YouTube, for example. I've got a webinar on the 6 ways to increase sales without spending a single dime on marketing. And so I'm going to create a series of 6-7 videos, and each one's going to be one of the tips. And I'm going to just give the really quick, short version of it. And I'm going to say, but if you want to watch a webinar where I have the other 5 tips, go online here to go in the comments or go down in the information below this video, and you can watch that video on demand and get 5 more tips like this one to generate more sales, more profits, more new clients without spending a dime on advertising or marketing. And so what that does is that puts content out there. It helps with search engine optimization, and it also drives people to opt in and get leads. And for us, I mean, we use all of this, and we use it in different ways. And I could tell you that YouTube, for me, has been phenomenal. I mean, we're just making a decision, having that conversation. We really need to put more focus on YouTube because we get some of the highest converting, highest paying customers that way. The other day, I just got a private consulting client who's going to spend $30,000, $40,000, and he found me on a YouTube video, and that's not uncommon. So that's just for us. Maybe it's different for you. You've got to do these different lead sources and measure and see what comes in, because even though YouTube gives us the highest quality, Facebook gives us the most number of leads, and LinkedIn really works for us when we're with sponsorship more than anything else. So, but we use it all, because each one sort of delivers a slightly different type of prospect and lead and opportunity, and it's sort of the rising tide lifts all boats. All right. And then but when you publish content, don't forget you can also go offline and drive people online to subscribe as well. So direct mail, you send out a postcard, go download this free report, register for a seminar, print newsletters that you're sending out. You could go online and download our new report or our checklist or something like that. Trade shows, sponsorship that you're doing, driving people online, canvassing, radio and TV ads. I have not a lot, but a few clients that advertise on conservative talk radio, and that seems to be the best source of leads. But they'll run commercials on conservative talk radio, even TV ads, and they drive people to a website and get leads that way. In fact, one of my clients that had the highest converting websites, he was driving most of that through radio. He's getting a 5.6% conversion from raw traffic on his site, which is insane. It's better than ours. So you might think about that. Trade publications, networking events, and public speaking. If you've ever been to a public speaking event or saw a speaker on our stage, it happens. Somebody will be on stage like Chris Voss, for example, former FBI hostage negotiator. He said, for example, hey, I've got some, negotiation tips. My website is, and he gave his website, and he said, or you can text me at this, and he was getting people to text opt in. But personally, you could do that. You could say text this code, and we'll add you to the list, or you could say go online and we'll add you to the list. So that's another way to build your email list, okay? So those are the 4 steps. Mike, any questions on this before I move on, or comments?
No, everyone's hanging in there.
Okay, so let's talk about and move on to how do you get your emails delivered, opened, and clicked on. All right, so the most successful emails are going to be short, typically are going to be short. Not always. I guess maybe I should preface all this by saying I'm telling you in general what works. But there's always outliners that sort of, someone has this big long email and it works really well. So I'm giving these as general tips of what we see, but everything should be tested, and there's nothing that's 100% always this way, okay? So usually they're short, written like a one-to-one communication, so it looks like it's a text email, like you just sat down and wrote it. It's designed to arouse some kind of curiosity and designed to drive the recipient to a web page where the content is. So this example is, I'm not sure I have your correct physical address, so I put this letter online for you as a PDF. You can read it here. That would be a hyperlink. It's pretty important, so please take a minute to read it. So there's curiosity. If I'm sending this to a known list, meaning they know me, they'll trust the link. So I know some of you might look at this and go, I don't know, it might be spam, but I can tell you that if you're sending it to people who know you, this will get a good open rate and click-through rate. If it's prospects, it'll always be lower, but typically that's what the most successful emails are. Here's what you do not want to do. Now, if we were all selling shoes or handbags or some kind of consumer goods, then graphic-heavy emails may work better because they're showcasing, here's the new arrivals that just came in, or check out the leopard print tights that we've got. I know Mike likes that kind of stuff, right? So, but when we're talking about professional B2B emails where you're selling services, trying to get someone to a blog, this kind of format screams spam. So as soon as they see that in their inbox, they only see the top portion with the logo and stuff. They often don't open to see the whole thing. So when you're sending emails, what typically is going to work best is a format like this, where it's just it appears to be a text-only email like this example. And the other thing is, have a casual greeting like hey or hi. Don't be formal and write, dear Mike, or greetings Mike, or something like that, because it sounds like, I don't know, it's odd. People don't write emails that way. Another thing you could do is just put Mike, there's 3 new cyber threats or something like that, or you could just go into your content, because the key is you want to write as though you're talking to one person and not a group, all right? So like if you look at this email, it says, the subject line is cybersecurity alert important. And it would say, hey, Mike, if I was sending it to Mike, there are 3 new cyber threats gaining traction that you and your team need to be aware of. I just posted this article to alert and inform our clients. Obviously, this would go to a client, right? And you have the link. Please take 60 seconds to read this and be sure to pass it on to your employees, friends, and family and friends. And then you got the link again, okay? Now, that sounds like you wrote it to one person. Now, this is how I've seen some people write it. Same subject line, but it'll say, few things are more valuable to business than their data. If you want to keep your customers paying, you have to keep their data safe and available. If this is important to you, read this new article we just posted about the threats we're seeing today. I mean, it's like, it sounds like you're writing a brochure, and instead of a one-to-one message, it's too manufactured. So when you're writing, here's my tip to you. Think of one of your clients that you really like, and pretend you were writing that email to just that client. And when you do that, it sounds far more natural. The problem is you sit down to write an email and you're thinking, I got to broadcast this to everybody. So it changes your communication style. Like, so if you've got a good client, John, just write an email like, if you wanted John to read this article, or if you wanted John to go to this webinar, what would you say to John? And when you do that and you think about that in your mind, it gets a lot easier to write the email and make it sound like a personal message, okay? Another tip, don't start your message by clearing your throat. I call that, copywriters that are junior copywriters do that. So they kind of, speakers do it too. So they come and say, can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. That's like, it's the worst opening in the world, right? Or they fumble around or something. In an email, they open with something like, I hope you're doing well, or it was a pleasure meeting you, right? It's like, it says I'm selling something, or it just sounds stodgy. So don't do it, right? Don't clear your throat. Get right to the point. Be pithy, be concise, get right to it, because the shorter the email, I shouldn't say the shorter, the more successful it is, but you don't want to get too wordy. You want to get to the point quickly and get them to click and take action. All right. And that's the next tip, is use the email as a means for getting them to click and do something, like go watch this video, go register for the seminar, read your blog post, or schedule an appointment. Okay. If you're trying, because people can't do anything in an email. And we're talking about broadcast. We're talking about doing these broadcast email marketing. You want to give them something to go online, because once they start watching the video, or once they opt in, now they're engaged and you can continue the conversation. And it also allows you to segment your list, because let's suppose you have a big email list like mine, and we send out a broadcast to everybody, and we get 1,000 people clicking on a link, or 1,000 people downloading a report. At least we know those 1,000 are the ones we want to focus on, because they're interested in that topic, not the other 39,000 that that never got the email or whatever, right? So this is another way of helping to segment your list in interest, because if they click on the link, they've got some interest in that. And if you have a small sales team, you can focus your efforts on calling or following up with the people who clicked or responded to your email in some way. Okay. And also, don't attach PDFs or other files. I see people doing this with their email newsletter. They'll say attached is the June newsletter, and it's got a PDF and it's an MSP. I'm thinking to myself, surely you guys have gotten the note that PDFs in particular, right, carry sort of a reputation, shall we say, of having viruses. So the best thing is to say, click here, or, have a link, click here to read it, or something like that, and you drive them online where they can then read the content, okay? The other thing, keep the link high in the message so they don't have to scroll all the way down to see it. Keep it up high, and make sure that the visual link is short and non-threatening. So you'll see here, like if I wanted to send you to my blog, I'd send you to, toolkitlive.com/blog, and that would be the URL. And you could see the one below it is a really long, kind of scary link. So you don't want to do that. Now, the other thing you could do is use like a hyperlink, like you're seeing here. So click here now to read the article. That sort of thing, that's perfectly okay as well. And double check your links before sending a broadcast, because you send yourself a test and read the email out loud and click on all the links and make sure it works, because you don't want to send a big old broadcast out and have the wrong link or a broken link, or it's going to the wrong page. Okay. Let me keep going, then I'll check in with you, Mike, for a second. Let's talk about subject lines. Okay. Don't capitalize the first letter of every word in the subject line like you see there, because that's not how normal people emailing each other write subject lines. And when you do that, it again screams, spam. You want the subject line to tease them to read it. So, like, here's some examples of ones that I've used in the past that have worked really well. Was that you in this photo? Or my office flooded today, picture enclosed. People like that kind of stuff. First name, where I just put their first name in the subject line. That works really well. That's part of the 9-word email. We use that not just in that, but in other times. Important, please read before Tuesday, or please open right away, or please respond in kind, right? But important. And don't overuse that, because if you overuse it, people stop. It's, they go, it's not important, right? I can't believe your name isn't on this list. Does this bring back any memories? Letter for, Mike, if it was first name. Can I get your help? Second request, please respond. And another one I used that was really good was I'm pregnant, and I wasn't at the time, but I forget, I kind of flipped it into like with ideas or something. And I'm like, oh, you guys are all sick for clicking on this link. And it was actually one of the highest open rate emails that we ever did. So maybe I need to try it again. But yeah, it's like anything that sort of raises their curiosity, because when someone's looking in their inbox, they're skimming who's it from and subject lines. And so if the subject line catches catches their eye, which is exactly what that's what the headline is in an email. It's the subject line. It'll get them to stop and check it out and read it. Okay. The other thing you want to do is send the email from a person they know, not typically the company, because now if it's a consumer good company, like when I'm, if I buy something from Lululemon, which I like, and the email's not going to come from somebody at Lululemon, it's going to come from Lululemon. That's okay. But in professional services and when you're delivering content, it's best if it's coming from somebody that they know, typically you, the CEO. And be consistent with your from address. I have seen some companies send email from different people in their organization that I don't know. And I almost unsubscribed because I looked at it and I thought, I don't even know this person. What the heck are they emailing? Then I looked at the email address and saw, oh, that's from so-and-so's company, and I do want to stay on their list. But because the person's name was changed, I had no idea. I was used to seeing emails from somebody else, and then suddenly they change it. Now, with that said, like sometimes we will send emails in our organization to our clients from Jeff, but our clients know Jeff. So if they see Jeff Johnson, they're not like, who the hell's Jeff Johnson, right? Now, we wouldn't send that to prospects because they don't know who the hell Jeff Johnson is. Or Allison, if for our Infusionsoft group, people know who Allison is. And even though Danny leads that division, the emails don't come from Danny because not many people know him. So just keep that in mind. You want to be consistent with the from address, particularly with prospects, because once they get to know who it is, if you switch it up on them, you can actually get a bunch of people opting out. All right, Mike, any questions on any of that stuff I just covered?
Let's see. If you have questions, just throw them into the box. But just, I can't reiterate enough, Robin, what you were saying about making them personal. I know you're a big fan of Dean Jackson as well, and just his rules of keep it short, personal, and expecting a response. It's like that's the golden rule and gets you very far with emails. If you wouldn't say that in person, then don't. And I kind of disagree with some of the marketing gurus who have those indoctrination emails. So as soon as you download a report, you get this thing back where it tells all about your company and then says whitelist you and then says join them on Facebook and do this. It's like super long. You'd never do that in person. You don't shake hands with someone, introduce yourself, then tell them 15 things to go and do. You say, oh, like, where do you work? Or what brought you here today? And you'll get far more response doing it. Just pretend someone just walked into your office and what would that conversation look like, and try and replicate something like that via email. So
right.
Let's see if there's any questions. No, I think it's all going real well, self-explanatory. But if you have questions, make sure you put them into the question box there, and we'll get those answered for you.
Okay. All right. And I probably am answering some as we're going along, too. So some additional marketing tips to maximize engagement leads and minimize opt-outs. Okay. So one, Mike's saying don't have an indoctrination campaign. So here's what I'm saying is when you have an indoctrination campaign for new leads that come in, so I probably should have worded that different because I didn't know there was marketers out there saying to do that as the indoctrination campaign. We're not doing that. Like somebody opts in, we're not saying, okay, follow us on Facebook and go like this thing. And we're not doing that. What we're doing is I probably should have said some sort of follow-up campaign. So when a lead comes in, what we're doing is we're cleaning it, then we're calling it, then we are making another offer. Like it just depends on where they are in our funnel. So if they opt in for a piece of content, but the next step we might say is, would you like to set up a free one-on-one marketing consultation with one of our senior consultants? And we'll offer that. And we might send them a direct mail package in the mail after they've opted in. We're mailing them the Godfather campaign. So that's what I meant. Indoctrination from the standpoint of I would not email them as soon as they opt in, like, hey, go like us on Facebook and go do this. Like not one big ass long email or a series of them because that's irritating. It's like, I don't even know you and you want me to follow you on Facebook. It's too much. It's like going into a bar, sitting next to a woman and saying, what do you want to name our kids? It's like, hold on a second, slow down, Brushfire. How about, how about you buy me a drink first or something? So, anyway, the point I'm making is as soon as a lead comes in, you're going to have a follow-up process that is going to be different than a drip campaign. That's probably how I should have articulated that. Okay.
Well, I mean, and then, yeah, and when I was saying, like, I was talking about specifically those types of indoctrination campaigns that are long and annoying. Like, you got to have some kind of indoctrination. Just be careful. Don't look up what some of them are doing. Or I joined these lists, and you get an email that's a mile long and asks you to do 5 things. I mean, I suppose if someone does all 5, that they're a good lead, except I think it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody would do that, especially because most online leads, you got to understand, you're getting a very shy maybe. You know, they're just kind of checking you out, and you can run them over. So, you know, you think about it, that, like the saying I've always said is, be the flame, not the moth, right? So you want to attract them and kind of breadcrumb trail them to you. You don't want to, you know, go jump on them. You know, it's crazy. But as soon as a lead comes in, yeah, then have a follow-up process. Yeah, I wouldn't send one email with 5 requests. Okay, so I think we killed that one. So the other thing is, email your list weekly with some kind of content they're going to be interested in. This is the real secret behind keeping your list responsive. If you start sending boring, uninteresting, dull articles that you've sourced from somewhere, you're actually damaging your list. And this is a mistake I've seen a lot of IT firms make, where they go to, because there's a couple of companies out there that offer to do this for you. They say, oh, well, we'll get your content together and we'll publish content and we'll email your list. The problem is the content is so friggin' boring. Nobody wants to read it. Nobody's interested, and they just spam it out. And pretty soon people ignore you. And once they ignore you, it's really hard to get them back. So make sure you send content that they care about. And again, if you're an Infusionsoft user of ours, we have weekly cybersecurity tips. It's also in the cybersecurity toolkit, I will mention. But in Infusionsoft, we got it baked in, so you could put people in that. That is a prime example, because what that is every week we're saying it's security tip number 1. Next week it's security tip number 2. And it's a very short text email that's based on one simple cybersecurity tip, literally 2-3 sentences. And it just keeps security top of mind, and people love it. Like, they really, really like it because it's short, it's quick, it's interesting, it's relevant, and they get leads from it as well. Okay. And the other thing is, this might be counterintuitive. See, most of you are afraid of emailing too frequently. And the mistake you can make is to never email them, right? So if you only email them once in a while, your list forgets who you are and they think you're a spammer. And I've actually had that happen, where clients come to us and they start doing email marketing, and they take their list. They've been in business for 20 years, and they take all their clients and contacts that they've gathered over 20 years, and they just do a broadcast, and they get shut down from their, I mean, I had one person call me, they got shut down on ConnectWise because they sent it out of ConnectWise, and it was a bear to get back. And that's because even though these people were customers, and even though they were prospects, they were so not used to getting email, and they hadn't been in contact for so long, they thought they were a spammer. So just a couple of extra tips to keep your list healthy, engaged, and interested. All right, let me move on. Email numbers, marketing numbers to know. Before I get into any numbers, I want to get some definitions just so we understand we're talking on the same page. So total list mailed is your entire email list, whatever it is, okay? Then delivered is the total minus any bounces. All right, so that's what you got to, whenever you do any broadcast, you will have some percentage that bounce. And typically, most email broadcasting software will have like a 3-strike rule. So if an email bounces 3 times, then they suppress them. Mike, do you know in Infusionsoft, can you reset that setting, or is that the same there? Like for hard bounces?
Yeah, I don't know that you can reset it at that point. I guess there's probably a way 1 by 1 that you could do that. But yeah, if it's that 3 times, I mean, then That's kind of
it
it.
suppresses it. Yeah, it's considered
Yeah.
like non-deliverable, right? So, so keep an eye on that. I care more about bounces from customers than I care about anything else. But sometimes there's a soft bounce. If it's a hard bounce, there's a difference. And I do not go through and clean up all the softer hard bounces for prospects because it's always evolving. So, but when you talk about emails delivered, now that doesn't mean it didn't go into a spam filter. It just means it was delivered. It could have been delivered right to their spam filter. So just keep that in mind. Opt-outs, people who click on the link to unsubscribe from your list. Okay, that's what that means. Open rate is a percentage of people that is estimated to actually have opened the email. Now, this is a little squirrely number, okay, or a percentage. Most broadcast services count total opens versus unique opens. That skews the number high. So like if I email Mike and he looks at my email twice, that counts for 2 opens in some software. Now in Infusionsoft, they count unique opens. So for example, sometimes members will come and they join Infusionsoft and they're coming from some other broadcast and they go, oh my God, my open rate dropped. And it's not that the open rate dropped, it's that it's giving you an open rate based on unique individuals. So each open is only counted once, okay? Also, open rate's never a true percentage because if you're like me, like I have the images turned off in my email. So there are emails that I open and read, but you wouldn't count it as an open because I have the images turned off. And that's how the service detects that you've opened an email is when that pixel displays. Also, if you have the preview pane, the pixel displays right as I'm deleting it doesn't really mean that I read it. It just means that pixel displayed. So it's kind of it's a number you want to look at because it usually will represent the effectiveness of a subject line and who the email's from, but by and large, open rates is just, it's a piece of data, but don't spend a lot of time fretting over it or trying to improve it, okay? And then there's click-through rate, and this is what we care about more, and this is the percentage of people who click on a link in your email based on the delivered, not the total list, which is how Infusionsoft tracks it. Again, you got to look at your software because all email broadcasting software wants to give you better numbers. They want to give you the best looking numbers. So they might just say click-through is based on opens, which will give you a higher number than if you say, let me look at click-throughs based on the total delivered. So just keep in mind, like you got to look at whatever software you're using, you got to know the numbers and how they calculate it. And then engagement, you might hear that term. Engagement's just a term that's used to describe some activity. So if somebody's opening your emails and clicking it, they're considered engaged. And there may be people on your list that look like they're not engaged at all. They haven't opened or clicked on an email in over a year. But like I said, open rates are not entirely true. It could be that they're getting it. They're just, the pixel is not displaying, and therefore it's not counting as an open. So now that you know those definitions, some email marketing numbers you want to know is the opt-out rate. So the average opt-out rate per broadcast is usually less than 0.5%. And if it's higher, something's really wrong. Ours is at 0.001%. So every time we do a broadcast, we get a few opt-outs, but it's really not that many. And we're always adding way more. So every time we do an email broadcast, we also get an influx of new leads because people forward it or they opt back in, with so they reactivate. So just keep that in mind with opt-outs. The average open rate, and again, this is just, general averages, 18 to 20%, but that's a percentage of delivered emails, not your entire list. And some software counts every open. So if someone looks at your email twice, it's counted twice. We already talked about that. So you got to figure out or look into how your broadcast solution counts open rates, how it's calculated. Open rate for clients is usually going to be a lot higher for prospects. So like our open rate for clients is 40 to 50%, but prospects it's only 15%. And so you're going to see these segments of list, you're going to see higher response and better results from clients, obviously, than you're going to see from prospects. Average click-through rate for delivered emails is 1 to 5%. Again, check how your software is calculating that number. opens and delivered. And I know you're saying, well, what's the average for conversion, which is when they go to the page you're driving them to, do they fill in a form? Do they register? Do they buy? There's no average for conversion. It just depends on the offer, the landing page, and the relationship with the list. So it can be anywhere from 2%. We've seen as high as 70, 80% conversion once they hit the page. Again, it just depends on who you're sending them, what's the offer, what are you asking them to do. So, for example, if you had 1,000 emails and you sent out, and let's say 700 actually get delivered because the rest are bounced or whatever, okay? 20% open would be 140 based on the delivery. If you got a 3% click through, which is decent, that would be 21 people clicking through. And let's say 20% of the people who click through actually convert to whatever offer you're making, whether it's download a report or register for a webinar. That's 4 people. So the reason I want to show you these metrics is you might be shocked that if you send 1,000 emails, you only get 4 leads, let's say, or 4 activations. But that's not uncommon at all. And you might find out that 50% of them are no good, so you're really only getting 2. And this is not considered bad. This is considered good, average to even good, to get these kind of results, all right? And the other thing I want you to know is most email broadcasts, if you're sending just content, like they're not going to get a huge conversion. So like when we do just content, we're not really looking at, well, how many leads did we get? I mean, we do, because we do get some. But if you're just sending somebody to go read an article, but there's no offer on it, obviously you're not going to get conversion. But that's just to keep your list engaged and interested. Now, we always get a couple of leads will trickle up, like they'll book up an appointment or they'll call the office. But that's on the content emails. That's not really the goal. The goal is to keep them engaged and keep them paying attention. All right, so questions?
Yeah, we got some great questions that have come in. So Ed was asking, how often should you email your prospects or farm list kind of versus your clients and past clients?
Well, we're emailing them every week. So as soon as they come in, we have a process that we're following up to try and get them to book an appointment. And once they book an appointment, there's another process to get them to show up to the appointment, right? So we take them out. But then our general farm list and our client list, we're typically emailing them once to twice, 2 times a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's where varying up the content or the email message. I mean, sometimes you ask them on something, sometimes you just give them a blog, sometimes you give them a report or a video. And I mean, I would think of your email kind of as entertainment over education. I mean, you can send, and Robin, I think you commented on this last week, like we posted some kind of cartoons about IT services and computers and stuff, and that gets great engagement. So you can do that kind of stuff too, because putting a smile on someone's face, even though that might not lead to an appointment on that email, can keep them opening future emails, and it kind of sets you apart from the crowd with that.
Exactly.
So then we got Jacqueline who said, like in the example where someone, like say a company's been around for 20 years and has not been sending out emails, what's a good approach when you first start sending emails?
Well, I would segment the list. Obviously lost customers go in a different bucket, existing customers go in a different bucket, prospects that are recent go in one bucket, and maybe old prospects. And maybe the prospects like, oh, these are all the leads that came from that trade show we did 5 years ago, right? So if you know that, then you can segment put an email together, say, do you remember meeting 5 years ago? Maybe that would be a good subject line. You say, I know you're probably wondering who the heck I am, but believe it or not, we met 5 years ago. I was digging through some old business cards and I found yours. Thought we would reconnect. And maybe that's just like a simple email like that, And so to the best of your ability, segment these and then send them out in small batches, because you don't want to do one big general broadcast because you might get shut down for spamming if you get a lot of people opting out. If you do them in smaller batches, you can control it. start with clients first, then old clients. And I know we've got campaigns for reactivating lost clients, and you might just sort of cut and paste that copy we've got up on the dashboard for that. The subject line for a lost client could be, "I owe you a sincere apology." And you could say, I was looking over my records and realized it's been quite a while since I've reached out to you. It's entirely my fault. I haven't been very good at managing my list and relationships, but that's going to change. In fact, I've got a special report we put together for our clients, and you can go read it here, or something like that. I mean, you just have to find a way to kind of re-engage them. But again, take it in small chunks and go slow, because again, you don't want to get kicked off your broadcasting service as a spammer.
Yeah, absolutely. And another good kind of opening is it's been way too long.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions. So if you do have other questions, I'm just going back, Robin, to the early on ones, but you answered. I mean, you knew what the questions were, so you answered most of them. But if you entered a question early on and we didn't answer, go ahead and post it in here again. But I think, it's all about building the list, getting the opt-in, keeping engagement, getting your email opened. And I guess that's just a tip. If you have a subject line that works well, and you have an offer that works well, like Robin was saying, I mean, you might only get 4 opt-ins or 4 appointments, but remember, only 20% of people are opening any one. So you can send that again with almost no change to the body copy, and just maybe change the headline slightly. Send it like 2 weeks later, because as we all know, none of us are going back to unopened emails from 2 weeks ago, and unless you like that on vacation or something, to see what you've missed there. So you can send it again to that list that hasn't opened that email. So
you got it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Yes, Michael, the audio will be available on the dashboard, and someone else asked about the slides. Those are on the dashboard as well.
They're up there already.
All of the recordings are there. Obviously, this recording will be there right after we're done. Okay, it looks like that's it, Robin.
Okay, so pretty straightforward, guys. Get your content out there, and you got a lot of the tools, a lot of these offers and stuff you can pull out of, the free reports that we've got. You can, even like the 21 questions report, you could take that 21 questions and do a video blog on, here's one of 21 questions you should ask any IT guy before giving them access to your network. And that tip is blah, 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 blah. For the full list of these tips, go to blah, 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 and download it. And you got 21 videos right there, all SEO optimized, all driving towards a web form. I mean, it's awesome. And if somebody might sit there and watch all 21 tips too, and if they go through that, they're probably, going to give you a call and say, I want to talk to you. So, keep that in mind. With the content we put up on the dashboard, the free reports, you could, take a piece out of that and use that as a teaser, like, even in the bad date letter, how does your IT guy stack up? Take this quiz. You could offer that as a piece of content for someone to download, the dark web scan, the cybersecurity tips. So we have a lot of this content for you that you can use. You just have to be a little bit creative in creating a video or posting it on Facebook, turning it into a Facebook ad, turning it into a LinkedIn post, and then driving them back to your site. Okay. So, all right, folks, that's it. Mike, appreciate you. Debbie's been on the back. She's probably taking a nap because I didn't call on her at all. She got off easy. Yeah. Debbie, are you still there? Are you just goofing around?
Yeah. Thanks, Robin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
I was answering the non-email marketing questions.
Of course you were. Okay. All one
and
of
I'll
them.
get it posted Toot Suite as well for everyone.
Okay, poor Debbie. She's got to deal with me. All right. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, everybody. If you have additional questions, you can always go up to the dashboard, post it to the queue. Appreciate y'all. Talk to you later.